So Domestic Interventions actually started off with a different title for the concept. As a group of 3 female artists, we were starting off with the idea around homeland. And my work deals with a lot with portraiture and a lot of personal ideas of how to deconstruct my identity or reconstruct it as well too, if you want to go the other direction. So what actually happened with Story was the 2 artists that I actually showed with are friends, and they knew of each other's work, and they had a 3rd person that was meant to be showing with them, and she ended up having to drop out of the show. So I got a Facebook message late one night saying, Janet, one of the people I know, she said, I know your work. I've seen these sketches that you've been putting up while you've been on maternity leave of me chewing through wires at home and clawing the walls because I've been at home with the baby all year. So she said, I think you'd be a good fit for this. What do you think? So I said, sure. As a female artist, I never say no to an opportunity because we know that opportunities can be very few and far between for artists, not just female artists. So we decided to look at the commonalities between our work, and we saw that the underlying current amongst all our work was this play off of domestic spaces. And domestic spaces, both where you might be in terms of your mental space, how it can frame and contextualize you, also just taking the objects from them and twisting them, changing their function or making them dysfunctional. So we came up with the idea of homeland. And we, of course, cribbed that from a TV show, but we thought it would be an accessible point for viewers or people that were seeing the posters for this to understand that we were starting from that place and we were taking it somewhere else. And that was meant to be a loose connecting point for our network of artwork to expand upon from. I use myself because I'm the safest person for me to use. I can push my own boundaries. I am the most accessible person to myself. I am always there, and a lot of my work starts from photographs, and I'm a okay photographer. I like to take photographs and then turn them into these more detailed paintings where I can really correct all the colors. I can make things more detailed. I can really labor over one turn of the wrist and play with the color of the skin and really highlight certain areas more so. Things that other people might do very well in photography, but I really like to make it about that craft and about that labor and about that process. And it's easy to objectify myself rather than to take someone else's narrative upon myself. But I hope that by starting with myself in these archaic poses, which reference historical paintings or may utilize some other sort of pop culture reference as well too, like for instance the tent, which uses a toile motif, which is a decorative motif, that then other people will have an access point beyond it just being this personal portrait of myself. So a lot of feminists start off, I can't think of when it would have been that they would have said this, but around the 60s and 70s, saying that the personal was political. And so I always discounted that when I was younger, but then I realized as I got older, yes, the personal can be very political. It doesn't have to be aggressive. It doesn't have to be something of so much of a battle, but it can be subversive. And that's where I can take my own narrative and I can reframe it in these historical contexts, reframe it within popular contexts, take someone else's layout or composition or pose or artistic decisions and then put myself into that place. And by putting myself into that place, then I'm retelling their story through my eyes, but then hopefully modernizing it to a point where someone else can say, oh yeah, I recognize that story. I know what the backstory is, but also that woman's struggle is similar to where my struggle might be, or I know that woman. She might not be exactly me, but I can relate to that, and that's what I'm hoping people might see.